I remember the exact moment my world stopped. Logan Whitmore pinned me against the locked bedroom door at Marcus Hayes' graduation party. His hand covered my mouth. The music downstairs drowned out everything I was trying to scream. The bass line from some rap song pounded through the walls like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. I was 23 years old, and in those terrifying minutes, I stopped being the person I was before. The girl who was happy. The girl who trusted people. The girl who believed the world made sense. When I finally escaped and stumbled outside into the cold night air, shaking so hard I could barely stand, my clothes torn and my mind spinning, someone grabbed my arm. An older girl from high school looked at me with pity and fear in her eyes. She whispered words that made everything worse. "Emily, that's Logan Whitmore. Nobody goes after him. His family owns half the town. Just walk away." I didn't understand what she meant then. His last name didn't matter to me. The fact that his family was wealthy didn't matter to me. What mattered was that nobody had stopped him. What mattered was that I was broken and bleeding and nobody was going to help me. But that night, standing in the darkness with the party still happening behind me, bass still thumping through the walls, I made a decision. I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know how much it would cost me. I didn't know how powerful his family really was. But I decided I wasn't going to disappear quietly like everyone else seemed to expect. I was going to go to the police. I was going to tell the truth, even if nobody believed me. The police station smelled like old coffee and desperation. I sat in a small room across from Officer Marcus, who listened politely while I told him everything. His expression was calm, professional, understanding, until I said Logan's name. Then something shifted in his eyes. His posture changed. He leaned back in his chair differently. The pen in his hand moved slower across the paper. When I finished talking, there was a long silence. Officer Marcus rubbed his face and looked at me with something that wasn't quite sympathy. It was closer to warning. He said quietly, "Emily, I believe you. But his family's lawyers will tear this apart. They will question everything you say. They have resources you can't imagine." My stomach dropped into the floor. "But I have to file the report anyway," I whispered. Officer Marcus nodded slowly. He typed the official report while I watched. His fingers seemed to move with hesitation, like he was writing something he knew wouldn't go anywhere. When he finished, he printed it out and slid it across the desk to me. "Keep a copy," he said, "and understand something. This is just the beginning of a very difficult road." Within 48 hours, everything changed. Logan's family hired the most expensive legal team in the entire state. I learned this because reporters started calling my house. The Whitmore family was already controlling the narrative. Rumors spread through town like poison. I was lying for attention. I was trying to ruin a good family because I was jealous. I had wanted Logan and he had rejected me. Every story was different, but they all had the same purpose: destroy my credibility before anyone could believe me. Even Marcus Hayes, who had thrown the party, suddenly claimed Logan never went upstairs. When a lawyer called my house, he made it clear that the Whitmores had unlimited resources and unlimited patience. They would sue me for slander. They would destroy my reputation. They would make sure nobody believed anything I said. My parents were terrified. My mother cried constantly. My father wanted me to just put this behind us and move forward. Nobody at school would look at me. Former friends disappeared. My job at the local coffee shop ended when the manager said it was too much drama for their environment. I had never felt so alone. But then something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. The message read simply, "You're not the first girl." My hands started shaking as I opened the attachment. It was a blurry screenshot of a social media post from 3 years earlier. It showed another girl posting about Logan Whitmore with words that made my blood run cold. The post had been deleted, but someone had saved it. Someone knew what I was going through. Someone else knew the truth. I immediately called the number, but it went to voicemail. I sent a message back asking who this person was. 4 hours. Nothing. Then another message arrived. Sarah. Look for Sarah. She reported him 3 years ago. Her case disappeared. I spent that entire night searching for Sarah on social media. Profiles had been deleted. Over the next 2 months, I discovered the pattern. Sarah helped me find 2 other women who had experienced similar things with Logan. Their names were Anna and Marcus' younger cousin, Tina. Each story was different in details but identical in structure. They had all accused him. His parents had all made them offers. Some had taken money. Others had just been intimidated so thoroughly that they disappeared. The Whitmore family had become experts at making problems vanish. They had turned silence into a system. They had weaponized wealth against vulnerable girls. As I collected these stories, I began to understand something terrible. Logan hadn't become like this overnight. He had been created by his parents' willingness to protect him at any cost. He had been raised to believe he could do anything and face no consequences. And he was absolutely right, at least until now. One night, Anna called me in tears. She said she had something I needed. She had kept an old voice message that Logan had sent her right after she had reported him. She had recorded it because she was scared. She still had it on her phone. When she sent it to me and I played it, I heard the real Logan for the first time. The voice message was only 45 seconds long. Logan was drunk, his words slurred and angry. He said things that made my skin crawl. He threatened to tell people that Anna was crazy. He said his lawyers would destroy her if she didn't drop the charges. But worst of all, he laughed. In the middle of all those threats, he laughed like it was all a game. Like he had already won before anything had even started. Listening to his own voice, to his own threats, to his own certainty that he would never face real consequences, something shifted inside me. Fear became anger. Anger became determination. I had recording evidence. I had other victims willing to speak. I had a timeline. I had patterns. It wasn't enough yet, but it was something. I copied the voice message and stored it in multiple places. I added it to a growing file of evidence. Then I received a message from an unknown contact asking me to meet him. When I showed up at the coffee shop, Logan was already waiting. He approached me with a calm smile. He wore expensive clothes and carried himself like someone who had never been told no in his entire life. "You should drop this," he said quietly, sitting across from me. "You're not going to win. You're just going to ruin your own life." His confidence was the most terrifying thing about him. Logan didn't seem angry or nervous. He seemed certain, absolutely certain that he would walk away from this untouched. He had never experienced real consequences before, so he couldn't imagine experiencing them now. "My parents have handled this kind of thing before," he said calmly, stirring his coffee. "Nobody ever wins against us. Not because we're right, but because we can afford to be wrong." He explained almost casually how many lawsuits had been settled, how many problems had been made to disappear, how many lawyers he could hire. Suddenly, my reputation was attacked from every direction simultaneously. Fake stories appeared online about me, created by accounts that had no history. People I had never met claimed I was unstable, that I had made up the entire accusation for attention, that I was trying to extort Logan's family for money. Anonymous comments suggested I was a gold digger. The pressure became almost unbearable. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. There were nights I considered dropping everything and just disappearing like Sarah had done. There were mornings I woke up and didn't recognize myself in the mirror. My parents begged me to stop, to let it go, to protect my own mental health. My remaining friends vanished one by one, unable to handle the drama or the danger of being associated with me. I was completely isolated and alone. Then something unexpected happened. A man named Thomas, who had worked as a bartender at the graduation party, contacted Diana. He said he remembered Logan following me upstairs that specific night at the party. He said he had wanted to follow us to check on me, but his manager had told him to stop and focus on other guests. He said he had felt guilty for 3 years about doing nothing to intervene. Thomas said he had watched me that night and something about my expression had scared him, and he had regretted his inaction every day since. Thomas was willing to testify in court. He was willing to put his name to what he had witnessed. He was willing to face the Whitmore's lawyers. That single moment of courage from a stranger gave me strength to keep going when everything else had failed. Thomas's statement was powerful, but Diana said we needed more. She said we needed camera footage from the party house. Security systems were common at expensive homes, and Marcus Hayes' family had definitely had cameras. When Diana started requesting the security footage, Marcus' lawyers immediately responded. The footage had been deleted, they claimed. A routine system maintenance 3 years ago had wiped everything. Convenient. Too convenient. But then Diana received a call from Marcus' father. He was older now and felt guilty about the way the party house had been used. He told Diana that he had actually kept backup files that nobody knew about. He had been afraid to come forward because the Whitmores had threatened him with lawsuits if he talked to anyone. But he wanted to do the right thing now. Marcus' father sent Diana the files. And one fragment still existed. One piece of security footage remained intact. It showed a clear timestamp and a clear image of Logan going upstairs. And then, much later, Logan leaving that same room. The timestamp showed he had been up there for 27 minutes. 27 minutes that he could not explain away. The security footage fragment was like finding a key to everything. But Diana said we needed more. We needed to prove that Logan had actually known what he was doing was wrong. We needed to show pattern and consciousness. Then Logan's mother made a public mistake. At a charity event that was covered by local media, she gave an emotional speech defending her son. She talked about how he was being attacked unfairly. She talked about how the accusations were lies designed to destroy her family. But then she said something she shouldn't have said. She revealed details about what had supposedly happened that night. Details that had never been made public. Details that only someone who had heard the full story directly from Logan would know. Diana watched the video recording and looked. Some had lost years of their lives running from the truth. But now they were willing to speak. The Whitmore family's wealth had protected Logan for so long that they had believed it always would. They hadn't counted on one girl who refused to disappear quietly. They hadn't counted on her finding other girls. They hadn't counted on patterns becoming visible. They hadn't counted on the power of collective truth. When the media storm hit, it was like watching a massive building collapse in slow motion. The Whitmore family, so accustomed to controlling narratives and silencing people, suddenly found themselves unable to manage the situation. Journalists had discovered old cases. Journalists had found former employees and contractors willing to talk about the family's intimidation tactics. Journalists had documents showing settlement payments and the strict non-disclosure agreements that had silenced victims. The story was too big to contain anymore. It had grown beyond any single narrative they could control. On television, anchors discussed patterns of predatory behavior protected by wealth and privilege. In newspapers, investigative writers detailed the systematic silencing tactics the family had used for years. Online, forums and social media pages filled with people sharing their own experiences with similar families, similar wealth-based protection systems, similar injustices. The Whitmores seemed to panic for the first time in their lives. Their lawyers released statements that only made things worse, statements that came across as defensive and arrogant. Logan's mother gave an interview where she portrayed herself as the real victim, which backfired spectacularly when people recognized the manipulation. Logan's father made a terrible decision in his desperation. He contacted Diana directly, not through his lawyers but personally, requesting a private meeting outside the formal legal process. Diana agreed but did something crucial. She recorded the conversation legally, with one-party consent in our state. During that meeting in a quiet coffee shop, Logan's father offered money. A lot of money. Enough to make me disappear completely. Enough to make all of this go away. Enough to return his family to normalcy and protect his son from prison. He said this in words and tones that showed complete consciousness of guilt, complete knowledge of what his son had done. Those recorded words, captured on Diana's phone, would become evidence of witness intimidation and attempted bribery. The prosecutors listened to the recording and immediately filed additional charges. Witness intimidation. Attempted bribery of a witness. The Whitmore family's desperation was becoming their downfall. They had always believed money could solve everything. They had never met someone who wanted something more than money. I wanted accountability. I wanted justice. I wanted to make sure Logan could never hurt anyone else. They couldn't buy that from me. They couldn't threaten it away. They couldn't make it disappear with settlements and non-disclosure agreements. The trial date was set for 6 months away. 6 months for the Whitmores to realize their money couldn't protect them this time. 6 months for the full legal system to be turned against Logan and his family's pattern of protecting him. 6 months for me to prepare to face him in a courtroom and tell the truth under oath. The day charges were officially announced, I watched Logan Whitmore's confidence finally crack. He walked out of the police station with his lawyers surrounding him, and for the first time, he didn't look certain. He looked small. He looked scared. The lawyers tried to shield him from cameras, but you could see it in his face. The understanding that money wasn't going to fix this. The understanding that for the first time in his life, he was going to face real consequences. My phone buzzed with messages from other victims. Women I had never met thanked me for breaking the silence. Women who had been silent for years said they finally felt like they could breathe again. Women who had taken money to disappear said they wanted to testify. The trial was going to be the most important moment of all of our lives. Diana worked with me every single day preparing. We went over my testimony dozens of times. We went over every detail. We prepared for every possible attack the defense would make on my credibility. The message was real. Logan's own words were betraying him. When they showed the security footage, the physical evidence of him going upstairs and staying there for 27 minutes, the defense had no answer. The judge allowed the footage and all the testimony to stand. After all arguments were presented, the jury left to deliberate. We waited in a quiet room. Diana held my hand. Other victims waited with us. We didn't know if the jury would believe. We didn't know if the system would work. We didn't know if justice was actually possible against wealth and power this enormous. After 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. The courtroom filled with people. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as the jury foreperson stood up. The charges against Logan Whitmore for sexual assault were read one by one. Guilty. 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 Multiple counts. The room seemed to stop moving. Logan's mother made a sound like she had been hit. His father sat frozen in disbelief. His expensive lawyers looked stunned. For the first time in his life, Logan Whitmore had faced real consequences. For the first time, his family's money and lawyers and influence had not been enough. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Logan's face went gray as the words were spoken. His parents sat in shocked silence. Years of protecting him, years of paying people off, years of silencing victims, all of it ended in a single moment. When they led him away in handcuffs, I realized I was crying. Not from sadness. From relief. From finally feeling like the system could work. From finally believing that justice was possible. from finally knowing that I wasn't powerless after all. Months after the conviction, the Whitmore family's empire began to collapse. Civil lawsuits were filed by victims. Financial investigations were launched into the family's settlement payments. Their business reputation was destroyed. Logan's parents lost their social standing in the community. Friends abandoned them. Organizations they were affiliated with cut ties. The family that had built their entire life around protecting Logan from consequences now faced the consequences of everything they had done. More victims came forward after the conviction. Women who had been silent for years suddenly found their voices. The Whitmore family's pattern of predatory behavior and systematic silencing became visible in a way that couldn't be hidden anymore. As for me, I didn't just survive what happened that night. I helped make sure that no other girl would be silenced again. I showed that wealth doesn't make someone untouchable. Money doesn't make assault acceptable. Families can't hide the truth forever. I graduated from college. I became a counselor for sexual assault survivors. I dedicated my life to helping other victims find their voices. The girl who walked out of that graduation party broken and terrified learned something crucial. She learned that she was stronger than her fear. She learned that speaking the truth, no matter the cost, was worth it. She learned that justice was possible if you were willing to fight for it. Standing in my own apartment years later, looking at my own life that I had built, I finally felt at peace. Not because the pain was gone, but because I had transformed it into something powerful. I had transformed it into change. And that change meant that Logan Whitmore could never hurt anyone else again.